Hello and welcome back. Hope you had an opportunity to take the previous lesson and quiz. We had briefly talked about intro to a Van Halen song called Jump, and I'm going to go ahead and play that intro again. We had also talked about triads, and specifically major and minor triads. And I want to talk about some of these triads that don't maybe fit the rules of what we had talked about. Okay, so this first triad is a G major triad. Hopefully that's recognizable by now. You can see that this fits the rule. We've got 1, 3, and 5 here, right? Now this second triad, however, really does not fit the rule that we talked about. This looks more like 1, 4, and 6. Well that's odd. Let's take a look at these letter names though, specifically G, C, and E. Recall that we talked about the C major triad, which uses the letters C, E, and G. Okay, so really we are using exactly the same letters, just a different order. Okay, so this is actually a pretty common thing to do in piano playing, and we call this an inversion, when we flip the ordering of notes within a triad. So let's break this down a little bit more. C, E, G makes our C major root position. If we were to put the C on top instead of the bottom, we would have what's called the C major first inversion. Okay? If we take the E that is now on the bottom, we've got E, G, C here. We're going to take the E and move it to the top. That's going to give us G, C, E, which is going to give us the second inversion. And lo and behold, that's the triad that we need for the song. So let's go through this again. Okay. Could there be another inversion in there? Well, yes, there is. Let's make sure we've got this process down. Here's we'll do something that's a little different here first. This is the D major triad, just so we got kind of the process here. D, F sharp, and A. Take that bottom, put it on top. F sharp, A, D. Now the bottom that we've got now on the first inversion is F sharp. So our bottom in the second inversion, look at that. A is going to be A. So we've got A, D, and F sharp. So it's the same concept, you know, if we're using white, black, 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 etc. We're just taking the whatever's on bottom and flipping it to the top to create an inversion. But more specific to the song, let's do the F triad a minute. F, A, C, F, C, F, A. Okay, I think I saw that in there. Okay, so we've got G major triad, C second inversion, a couple of F triads, a G, another G, another C second inversion, F, our inverted F, the second inversion F, and a C, and then we've got this chord here that we have, and this is another new one we have not discussed yet. But before we get into that, I'd like to answer some questions as to what you're thinking at this point. Like, why? Why are we making this? It appears harder, but really this is actually a lot easier than, for example, let's try if we were to just use root position triads. This, pardon the pun, this is quite a jump. And you can well imagine this is, you know, it's going to be error prone, right? Sometimes you're not going to make that jump off the cliff and that daredevil leap. So this is a lot easier. Look, all I'm doing is pivoting. I'm keeping my thumb right on that G, and I'm just pivoting my fingers outward to create the C major second inversion from the G. See how much easier that is? See how much more natural and less error prone? So the other reason that we would want to use an inversion is for melodic purposes. And if you are at all familiar with this song, you probably realize that there's not a lot going on in the song at that point, except for the keyboard part that I'm playing. And every song needs a melody. It's something that we crave to hear in a song, right? And a good melody is going to be pleasing to the ear. It's going to be catchy. It's going to be something that you can hum or whistle or sing along. And you never hear a melody that's going to be all over the place, right? Because no human can hum that or sing that or whistle that, right? It's not going to be catchy if it's not something that people can easily hum or sing or whistle. So we want to keep the notes of a melody fairly close together, but at the same time our ear craves a certain amount of variety. So that being said, because there's really nothing else going on in this part of the song, the melody, the effective melody we're hearing is the top note of these triads. It's going to sound something like this. And see, that's a melody that's pleasing to the ear. It's easy to remember. Somebody could hum it or whistle it. What would happen if instead we had used root position? So now our effective melody is something like first of all, that makes it more difficult for a person to hum it or sing it. It just doesn't quite have the same ring, does it? Even if we had used the first inversion, not quite as bad as maybe the root position, but what happens to the melody then? Boring, right? So probably on some subconscious level, the composer or author of this song realized that this was just going to be the best choice, going from the root G to the second inversion C. Okay, so you can see where inversions could be important for melodic purposes as well as ease of use. Okay, so now we've kind of covered inversions. I'd like to move on a minute. I'm going to show you some finger numbers. We're going to use finger numbers forever and ever and ever, and it's going to be relevant to scales. I promised that I would talk about fingering of scales to make them easy to play so that you can whip right through them and have ease of use with the scales, fluidity, so forth. So let's look at my hands a minute. So I've got ones, twos, threes, fours, fives. Okay. So our hands, of course, are a mirror image of each other. Thumbs are ones, fives are pinkies. Okay. So let's talk about the C major scale. We've got to cover 8 notes. Oh, there it is on our page too. We've got the fingering 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're trying to cover 8 notes with 5 fingers. Okay? And if you haven't already learned the staff, scales can actually be a great way to do this, because look on the page and you can see that everything's going line, space, line, space, line, space sequentially. And whenever we do a major scale or a minor scale, we're always going sequentially through the music alphabet. Okay, so this first note here is a middle C, D, E, F, G, A, because we've got to start over, B, and C. And if we were to look at, say for example, a different scale such as, maybe we'll look at D major a second here. See, we're also moving sequentially, but this time we're starting on a space. See, we've got a D, E, this is would be an F, except we've got these sharps here in the beginning. So this is actually F sharp, and don't worry about this so much because we will cover that in the next lesson, talk about key signature. Just know for now that we're always going to cover every letter of the alphabet in sequence. Sometimes we may want to flat or sharp the letter, but every letter is going to be covered. Okay? Good. Okay, so let's see what this actually looks like in practice, because you're probably wondering, how is this going to be fluid? So let's look at C major scale. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3 under 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once again, 1, 2, 3 under. See how I'm doing that? Bringing my thumb under. See how I'm kind of pivoting my thumb? And when I go back down, I bring number 3 over. Very good. So now let's take a look at the left hand. Left hand is going to be exactly opposite because our left hand is a mirror image of our right. Okay, so we're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, over with number 3, 3, 2, 1, back down, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to pivot that thumb there. Okay, so this may look pretty easy, hopefully. It's going to be probably more difficult once you do the two hands together, but trust me, you will get it eventually. It will click. Okay. So the right hand's going to be the first to switch. Now I bring the number 3 over on the left, under with the left, over with the right. Okay? So just be patient with yourself, take it in slow motion. Again, it will make sense to you, just be patient with yourself. Notice too, this is an interesting thing to think about. Because our hands are opposite, if we were going in opposite directions, we would use the same fingering. But I'd like you to learn the other way too. It's okay to use this way if you're stuck on the other way until you can get your hands to work together. Okay. And I've got great news. This is a 5-for-1 scale. Okay, so it's a sort of a bargain, if you will, because for the price of learning the 1 scale, you actually learn 5, because the G major, D major, A major, and E major also use the same fingering. So if I play, for example, a D major, which has 2 sharps, I'm going to play 1, 2, 3 under, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? And yes, there are other possible ways that you could do these scales, but trust me, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a proven stable. There's a reason that's the orthodox. Well, I mean, if you could, you could try other ways, but I really think you're going to get your best results with this. Okay, so the other thing that this particular fingering enables, because it's stable, you can get speed, you can do octaves, So, for example, let's say you wanted to play a couple octaves, okay? Okay, so now the only thing I've changed here to do an octave is I'm using my thumb instead of my pinky until I terminate with my pinky. And now the left hand, you're going to bring number 4 across when you complete the octave to start the next octave. Okay, now there's still 2 scales, white scales, which we have not talked about, the F major in particular. What happens when we try to do the C major type fingering? Ooh! See, I just messed up. I mean, no human can do that. I don't care what your hands, I mean, what size fingers you have. It just doesn't work, guys. So let's do this. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's an exception that we're not going to finger like the C major. Okay, now the left hand we can finger just like the C major. Okay, now the B major recommended fingering 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I believe there's similar issues there where it's just a more stable fingering. So remember this: F, act as if you cut your right pinky off. B, act as if you cut your left pinky off. Okay, so the B major right hand is the same fingering as the C, it's just that left hand is different. Now let's talk about black scales, okay? Black scales, one thing that the black scales never use is your pinky, never. Why? Because it's the shortest finger. And it just doesn't make sense. You're not going to get any kind of speed. I mean, if you're trying to constantly manipulate that pinky to play the black notes, which are clearly shorter than the white, you're not gonna, it's gonna be cumbersome, it's just gonna be not turn out well. Okay, and we don't use our thumb for anything except white keys because our thumb is also shorter. We use our nice long fingers here to play the black keys when we do black scales. So here's a C sharp scale, and the easiest way to play these is to block them first until you feel comfortable and then play the scales normally. So let's try to play this blocked first. Like that. See how I just keep using my thumb for that, the F and the C? Which technically, folks, that's E sharp and B sharp, but okay. So, and then the same thing with our right hand. We can block it until we see. Now this is going to feel better after you're used to blocking it like that. F sharp, same thing. Okay, so C sharp and F sharp are the 2 scales you can think of as you can block them, use your pinky to play the whites in between. Now, E flat, you've got more than one white key in between your sets of blacks. But notice this actually feels very comfortable. It's like you're just wrapping. See how I just wrap my hand around like that? So I'm still using my thumb for white key, but since I have to cover 2 white keys, I've got to do 1, 2. 1, 2 fingering for the whites that are in sequence there. Okay. Now let's talk about A flat is going to be similar here. Kind of wraps around using the 1 and the 2 for the white keys in sequence. Okay, B flat scale. Now we've got 3 in sequence, 3 white keys in sequence. But you still got that wrapping feel where you're doing that 3, 2, 1, and then wrap with your number 4 when you're doing that left hand. And then you kind of, reach a finger over here. Your thumb is on middle C. Okay. So at this point I wanted to talk a little bit, let's see, I think we've covered A flat, E flat, G flat, B flat. Wanted to talk a little bit about posture. How we sit at the piano. Why does it matter? Okay, so what happens if I sit like this? And really, posture is more of an individual kind of topic, but you can see I'm really uncomfortable here. I mean, I'm sitting too close to the piano. I'm, feel very scrunched with my. I'm putting tension on different places that I shouldn't be, and eventually, it's just not going to give me the best results. Now, what if I'm too far from the piano? If I have a 45-degree angle here, this is too far. It should be more like, see, this is going to force me to reach certain, it's going to be awkward. Sometimes I'm not going to make that stretch. It's not good. Okay, so what we want is to be close to the piano such that we've got almost like a 90-degree angle here, and we want to be able to reach the pedals comfortably, nose approximately in front of middle C. We want to use not the entire bench because we don't want to roll off the back of the bench. Okay, so I think as you play, you'll just kind of get to that point where you just know when you're in position. What else can we talk about? Okay, our wrists, they should be straight. They shouldn't be slumping. They shouldn't be too far up. Kind of just see how straight my wrists are, just like that. And this really gives us our maximum dynamic possibility. I mean, if we're down here, it's hard to play nuances, dynamics, articulation. You're just not going to have the same control. Okay? So that wraps things up for me today, and hopefully you learned something. Stay tuned for more exciting songs.